very much on par to the growth that we've had over the last 10 or 15 years as well. So it's just a trend that they expect to see us continue. I want to speak to a moment here about tax rate. And you have this, council, on the handout that I've given you. I believe it's on the second page, just it might be easier for you to see it if you look at it on your page. But this tax rate slide is a comparison of all school districts in the Houston area. So it's Montgomery County, it's Harris County, and then we throw in Fort Bend ISD as well, because that's one of the districts that we consider to be a peer district. We use color here to help things stand out. The dark blue columns represent school districts in Montgomery County. So you can see the other school districts in Montgomery County. The lighter blue represent what we consider to be our peer school districts. So these are school districts that we compare ourselves to when we're looking at our academic performance, financial performance in every kind of way. Conroe ISD is represented by the orange bar, green bar. We have the second lowest tax rate in all of these school districts that are being compared at $1.28. Our tax rate at $1.28 is 17 cents below the average tax rate of our peer districts. It's over 20 cents below the average of the Montgomery County school districts. Our budget in Conroe ISD, as you would imagine, is very people intensive. 89% of our budget is salary. So we employ a lot of people. We are the largest employer in the county. Our next biggest expenses at 5.4% are contracted services. That's our electric bill and utility bills, water bills. The 4.1% represented there is our fuel for our buses, and then 1.3% is our insurance costs. Just to give you a quick peek, this is directly from the state of Texas. How do we spend our money compared to how the state spends their money? You can see that we spend a higher percentage of our funding in instruction. We also spend more money in guidance and counseling, as well as in security and monitoring as compared to the state. If you'll note, administration is an area where we spend about half of what the state spends.
Define the state, I'm sorry.
So the state, that's the average of all school districts in the state of Texas. We do have a fund balance in Conroe ISD. It's our savings account. TEA recommends that we maintain 25% of our operating budget in our savings account at all times. Every year we are able to save money in our operations budget. We move it to our savings account. If at any point our savings account exceeds that 25%, our school board has historically made the decision to use those funds to do capital projects out of cash rather than incur debt for those projects. It's been over $100 million in the last 10 years that we have moved over and done projects out of cash. The most recent project is actually here in the Oak Ridge feeder zone. It's at Irons Junior High. We just opened an addition at Irons Junior High in January. That addition was funded completely out of cash. There's no debt associated with that addition. With the amount of money that we've spent in cash, we've avoided over $60 million in debt on those projects. Additionally, we've been able to refinance some of our current debt and save over $110 million through refinance. And anytime that we refinance, we never extend the term of the debt. So if we owe 15 years on a given package, if we're able to get a lower rate and keep it at 15 years, we will do that, but we never would extend out for 20 years or 25 years on extend the term. There's a lot of conversation about debt. It is something that we pay close attention to. Our current debt in Conroe ISD is $1.2 billion. The average length of time on our debt is 18 years. You can see our assessed value to debt ratio today is at 3.41%. That's actually the lowest it's been since 1992. It's a testament to how quickly our tax base and our community has grown, just continues to grow. Texas Smart Schools is a program that was started by the state comptroller. It is a program that looks at school district performance, financial performance, and academic performance. So you can receive 2.5 stars for your academic performance, 2.5 stars for your financial performance. So a perfect score is 5 stars. Conroe ISD is one of only 3 school districts out of the 1,100 plus school districts in the state of Texas that have received a perfect score in all 9 years that this program has been in existence. Now let's move into this bond referendum and the process. It starts back in the 2015 bond. That program was built as a 4-year program, so we are right on schedule to be having this conversation in 2019. The 2015 program was $487 million. It went to the voters as a potential 1-cent tax increase. That tax rate increase was never realized, so there's been no change to our tax rate as a result of the 2015 bond. That program is well underway. We actually have 2 remaining schools that will open. The one that will open next year is in the Oak Ridge feeder zone. Suchma Elementary will open off of 242 next year as a K-6 school. Moving back further into our history, 2008 was actually a $527 million bond 11 years ago. It went to the voters as a potential 10-cent tax increase. The actual tax rate increase that was realized as part of that bond program was 5.5 cents. So you may ask, well, how is there such a variance in what went to the voters versus the actual tax increase? All estimation that we do is very conservative. So we never want to be in the opposite situation where we make a lower estimate and we ended up having to go higher. So we use very conservative numbers when we do our estimates. Additionally, as the community continues to grow, if growth speeds up, there are more homes and the tax base gets larger, and that affects the tax rate, allows us to keep it lower.
Don't appraisal values to protect that also?
Appraisal values affect only a portion of our tax rate. So,
But it's part of it.
say again?
But it is part of it.
It is part of it. It's a small part. So you think about we have two parts of our tax rate. So there is our maintenance and operations tax rate, which is $1.06, and then our bond and indebtedness tax rate, which is 22 cents. Okay, the $1.06 portion, so the large portion, is funded partially by the state. What happens on appraised values, if our homes go up in appraised value, and that generates, let's say, $20 million more in revenue for the school district for this year, next year the state reduces the amount of funding they give us dollar for dollar by that 20 million. So the increase in property values that you speak of there is not a benefit to the school district, it's a benefit to the state of Texas. So it does not benefit the school district. Now, the one area where appraised value does help is on the bond and indebtedness side, because the state makes zero contribution to our bond and indebtedness side. So that's the side of the house where you see a projected 10-cent tax increase and it actually is realized at only 5.5. That's because the community continued to grow, or appraised values changes, and so the tax rate is lower than it would have been. We look at our peer and area school districts to see how the market is with other school districts and how their bond programs are moving forward. Cy-Fair will have a bond election in May as well. Their package in May is $1.76 billion. Now, Cy-Fair is a very large school district. They are not quite twice as big as us, but they're close to being twice our size. Cleveland ISD will also have a bond referendum in May. Their package is $250 million. They have about 6,600 students in Cleveland ISD. One that we note is Fort Bend, very similar to us. Fort Bend passed a $990 million bond package in November. They've told their voters that they will be back in 2021 with at least $700 million more. So their total package came out to $1.7 billion, and they just decided to break it into 2 different elections. For us in our process, it began with a facility assessment. So going out and looking at all of our current facilities, it was roughly 10 million square feet of facilities and assessing their needs. The demographic study to tell us where growth was coming and how much growth could be expected. And then also programmatic assessments. Are there programs that we need to expand or add to our schools? When those 3 things were completed, we had a total of $1.4 billion in need that was considered. Now, we brought together a facility planning committee. This is a group of citizens from throughout the school district. Every feeder zone was represented. We had business leaders, we had parents, we had grandparents, retirees. There was a mix of folks that were on the committee. And their task was to build a bond package that would address growth and sustainability and safety and security of our buildings for at least the next 4 years in Conroe ISD, and to do so and affect the tax rate as minimally as possible. So they went to work on their $1.4 billion package, and they reduced it down to $827 million. That was a recommendation that they had to the Board of Trustees. The Board of Trustees then reduced it down further to $807 million, and that is the package that will go to voters on May 4th. So we'll jump right into the package. There are 4 new schools in this package. They are primarily, you'll see, in Caney Creek, Grand Oaks, and Conroe Feeder. Those are the zones of the school district that are showing the fastest growth. Growth and sustainability. This is where we invest in current facilities, either through major renovation or addition, so that we can sustain their life out further or make them larger depending on the situation. Now, what I would point out here is Oak Ridge High School is significant in this plan. This is an Oak Ridge High School major renovation, and you can see that it's noted here as phase 1. What that means is the committee, actually we met at one of our meetings was at Oak Ridge High School. Committee toured the facility and felt like that there was significant renovation that was needed in that building. The amount of money that was allocated in this package for that, they felt like there should be more allocated in the future. And I would point out to you here on this slide, you'd see Conroe High School Master Plan Phase 2. This is very similar to what was done with Conroe High School in the 2015 bond. So the 2015 bond for Conroe High School had a Phase 1, and then this package comes back as a Phase 2. And now the 2019 bond, Oak Ridge High School is being represented with the Phase 1 package. It's almost a $50 million package at Oak Ridge High School. Here are just a few renderings. This would be primarily a functional overhaul of Oak Ridge High School. So all the mechanicals, there would be some improvements in aesthetics, simply because if you have to take a wall down to get to the air handlers and those things in the walls, when you put the wall back up, you can paint it whatever color you'd like. So there may be some cosmetic renovations. A few artist renderings you see here would be cosmetic improvements in the auditorium. If you've been there, you know what that auditorium looks like compared to that rendering. And then new and more prominent entryways for both the front entrance of the school and what is considered the student main entrance for the school, off of the parking lot in the back. So this would all be included in Phase 1, and then a future Phase 2 would go much further into addressing the way the school is used, more than just its functional capacity. Safety and security upgrades are included for all schools in the school district. So these monies are dedicated to yearly expenditures that would allow us to address safety needs. If you've been to a school lately, you know that now you have to be buzzed to get in the front door, and then you get buzzed again to get to the front office. Those are an example of safety and security changes that are made for us to make our schools more secure. Additionally, smart door locks, security cameras. We consider weapons detection systems, like, could it be metal detectors or a more advanced weapon detection system, bulletproof glass. All those things are items that are considered as part of our safety and security. Life cycle work is large invasive maintenance projects. We refer to it often as summer work that is done to sustain the life of our buildings. The average school building in Conroe ISD is 28 years old. And you think about a building of that age, the work that needs to be done on roofs, mechanical systems, etc. That is the work that's included in life cycle work. Campus improvements and renovations, once again, these are line items for schools that are receiving major improvements. One area that I would point out to you here would be turf fields. So Grand Oaks High School was built with artificial turf fields. So your neighbors to your east have fields, football, soccer, baseball, and softball are artificial turf. This package would include that same field surface for students at Oak Ridge High School. Turf in general, I would tell you, who uses turf in the school district? Many groups use turf. Obviously, athletics use turf, use the fields. Also, JROTC, cheerleading, drill team, band, Special Olympics, and many student groups that would utilize turf. Over 15,000 students are currently enrolled in programs at schools that would utilize our fields. That represents about 25% of our student body. Total expenditures for turf in this package are 2.9% of the total package expenditures. So 25% of the students would use the fields, 2.9% of the expenditures are for turf. What we also know with turf is we would have operational savings with turf. It's hard to quantify exactly that amount because we can't isolate the way our water bills come in. We can't isolate what water is being spent in a building or on a field for irrigation, but we understand that there are costs associated with maintaining grass fields. There would be savings on the operations with turf. Career and technical education is another large investment at Oak Ridge High School. Currently, Conroe ISD has one central district hub for career and technical education, and that's Conroe High School. So every high school has some career and technical education programs, but our most expensive and largest programs, examples would be auto technology, auto body repair, culinary arts. Those are programs that only exist at Conroe High. We have never increased the capacity of those programs. So currently, the student wants to be enrolled in auto technology. They enter a lottery. If they are chosen to be a student that takes that course and they're a student at Oak Ridge High School, they drive to Conroe High, they take the course. What this package would include is an investment in those programs in a South County hub to be located at Oak Ridge High School. I don't know exactly what programs would be there yet. We would do an assessment of local businesses, what do they need in a workforce, and that would be the driver of that decision. But this South County hub would double capacity in these programs. It would also make it where students in South County would not have to drive to Conroe anymore. Students at Oak Ridge High wouldn't have to drive at all. It'll be located on their campus. District-wide facility and transportation needs. Your fun fact of the day is that CISD buses drive 7.3 million miles every year. All right, we talked about being a large school district. As part of this process, this would include a larger transportation center up north. I know that we have a larger transportation and warehouse center located here by Vogel Intermediate. Would be mimicking those same facilities in Conroe for the growth up north. Also included in this package is a teacher training center. Our current teacher training center is the JET Center, is what we call it. If you're from Conroe or you've been here for a long time, you know it as Sam Houston Elementary. It's a 94-year-old building that has reached the end of its life. And so we look to build a new teacher training center and actually to build it down here at Wood Forest Bank Stadium. So it would be much more centrally located for teachers to not have to drive so far into Conroe to attend staff development. Technology expenditures. This is mainly large infrastructure work throughout the district. It's an annual expenditure. And one thing I would point out with technology is, and this applies to everything in the bond, is we sell bonds with a maturity length that matches the lifespan of the asset. And what I mean by that is we're not going to finance an iPad for 25 years. If we're buying an iPad, it's going to be on a 5-year program. And we understand that we're not going to have an iPad in service for 25 years. So we tailor the length of the bond program to the asset. And then land purchases. We know we will continue to grow, as we saw on the previous chart. The new schools that will be built in this package will likely not be the last new schools built in Conroe ISD. And so we do need to acquire land for a few sites in this package, but we also need to be thinking ahead and make purchases. It's harder and harder to find school sites. You know, our elementary sites are usually 16 to 20 acres. A junior high site is 40 to 45 acres, and a high school site is 80 to 100 acres, and that's hard to find in Montgomery County these days. So the total package, you can see there, 807 million total on the left. What does that mean to taxpayers? Well, the average home value in Conroe ISD is just a little under 300,000. So we use 300,000 as our nice round number to have this conversation. We know as a result of this package that we would have a 1 cent tax increase next year. That is for certain. That's what we know. A 1 cent tax rate increase on our average home would be a $27.50 change to your annual tax bill. So the maximum that could occur as part of this package over the life of the package would be a 3-cent tax rate increase. At 3 cents, that would increase your overall annual tax bill by $82.50. If we were to take the full 3 cents, which there's not a guarantee that we would, but if we did, that would take us to $1.31 in the current tax plan. At $1.31, we would still maintain the second lowest tax rate in all of the Houston area at $1.31. I would also point out that if you have citizens that are 65 or over and they have homestead exemption, then their tax rate is frozen. Their school tax rate is frozen, so this plan would have 0 impact on their tax rate. We're going to have an opportunity for bond information nights. We'll go a little more in depth. It's basically the same presentation, but our Oak Ridge feeder meeting, and folks are certainly welcome to attend any of the meetings, but the one right here locally for you will be April 15th at the Oak Ridge High School Auditorium from 6 to 7, and I would encourage anybody to come out and hear that presentation. Also, our bond website is very robust. If you're looking for information, you can go directly to Conroe ISD website, and there's a link there to take you to the bond website. Everything that I've presented to you tonight is on that website and many layers deeper as well. So if you'd like to learn more information, you can do that there. Additionally, if you have any questions, there's an opportunity there to ask a question online, and we'll do our best to get you any information that you need or answer any questions that you would have. So happy to entertain any questions that you may have.
I'll ask the first question,
Okay.
but let me say this first. If you have a comment, after we get through with this presentation, we have citizen comments, and you have to fill out a form to make citizens' comments. But if you have a question for Dr. Null, then I certainly want you to be able to ask the question. Just raise your hand, and Elizabeth, oh, there she is right there. She has a microphone. She'll be glad. Please state your name. We have a recording of all our meetings here, and we need to be able to keep track of it. So I'm interested in how you came up with the estimates.
Sure.
Did you use a formula? What kind of formula did you use to come up with a school cost and a turf cost, things like that?
Yeah, so because we grow so often and we build schools so often, we have a lot of historical data just in-house. So we, as we're talking about, we're building an elementary now, we're building a junior high now, we just built the high school. So we have our own historical data that helps us. But we also employ the use of architects and engineers to come in and help us with, to tell us how the whole market is looking, to see if there are any major changes. Everything that is in the package is exactly as you just worded. It's an estimate. Nothing in the package has been designed yet. Nothing has been bid. Nothing has gone out. So what we've given here is just simply an estimate based on historical data and a guess as to the amount of square feet that would be included in those things. Now, when we build elementaries, we're currently building the 19th version, or the 19th copy of the same school. So we have a pretty good handle on what that school costs to build. Moving forward, if the bond were to pass, every single item that we would spend money on would be legally and properly procured, seeking the best value for the school district. So the goal would be for everything that we do build to come in cheaper than what is included on the sheet. That would be the goal.
You said your estimates were very conservative, so basically they're probably on the high side.
They probably are, yeah, because what we would not want to end up in a situation where we can't build the schools that we promised the people that we would build. It's not uncommon for us to build an elementary school and come in with $1 million savings at the end. That's a goal. I mean, that's a stated goal. We want to find cost savings in every way that we can.
Was the Wilkerson Intermediate built off savings like that?
Yeah, so that was Bonnie Wilkinson Elementary School in Conroe was one that, when you look back at that, our fund balance slide, we built that school completely out of cash. So that elementary school was built full cash. And that elementary school is actually interesting because it does paint a picture of the inflated costs of construction now. That school is roughly 10 years old. That elementary cost $14 million to build. We're now building the same basic school. It's a 2-story version, but it's the same amount of square foot now that we build in an elementary school. It's the same basic building. And in this package, we're estimating that the final school that we would build, which would be 4 years from now, will be over $40 million for the same school. So the cost of construction has really gone up. Those are not changes that we've made. It's not things that we've added to the building. It's just the market that drives construction costs.
Council, ask you have any questions?
I noticed that there's nothing on here from McCullough High School.
What's a junior high?
Junior high, I mean junior high school, when I
High
called
school.
that. Junior high.
Yeah, McCullough is actually a school that is through the demographic study is going to be shrinking a little bit. So there is some work included there, but there's no big additions or anything of that nature. That was part of the decision making, truthfully, of how do you get, and I've been asked this question before, well, how do you get from 1.4 billion down to 827 million? Things have to get cut. One of the considerations at McCullough was an addition of a third gym. McCullough is a 2,000 student junior high school that did not make the cut through the committee. The committee took that off the list as they were trying to reduce the amount.
Will there be some aesthetics there?
Yeah, there'll be some. I mean, it's you've been there. I mean, it is what it is. It's vintage for its time. It's had quite a few improvements over the years. We just built an all-new fine arts wing just a few years ago, and previous to that, we built a large auditorium there. So it's had quite a bit of work done in the last few bond packages as well.
Have you talked to our Representative Toth and Senator Crichton about the school finance for this?
Yes.
Have you bothered to ask them why we can't eliminate this appraised value increase that the state reduces their funding by any appraised value be eliminated? And could those funds that we've gotten on these appraised value have been better used towards our savings account and then used more like the Wilkerson? We could use those monies towards capital projects. Have you explained that to him? Have you had any serious conversations with those two representatives or that state senator about this for our school finance?
Yeah, I actually meet with we have three representatives in the school. So I've met with all three representatives and Senator Creighton. Yeah, they're working on it. That's part of what they're working on in Austin right now is school finance reform.
Any likelihood of that occurring, that they're going to stop taking money out of our district and move in that?
Yeah, I've absolutely have shared that opinion. I do know that they're working on it. School finance, to defend them a little bit, is a very complicated issue, but I know they're working on it. I have faith that they're going to get something done this legislative session that will hopefully be positive, not just for Conroe ISD, but for all Texas school children. I believe that's going to happen.
Anybody else?
I do.
Alex?
I was making sure everybody else got their turn in. So. There's a lot of talk about the 50-page document that's out there that breaks down every single project by dollar. And I'm sure if you've been following the news, there's a lot of discussion about the fact that the certain numbers show up repetitively throughout the estimated costs. And my concern is that even if you take out the 45% soft costs that get added to everything because we're government entities and get stuck paying them, it still seems like there's an inordinate number of items on the list, over 400 of them, that are just using a repetitive number that was spitballed at the document. Can you assure us that every single one of those numbers was in fact researched and estimated legitimately and not just, here's a number I'm going to throw at the page 117 times?
Yeah. Well, I can tell you that I didn't throw the numbers at the page, so I won't assure you of anything other than we have a great planning and construction department and great architects and engineers that help form the document. Could there be a mistake in there? There could be. I don't know that. I can tell you that the numbers that you speak to, like you said, that one of the numbers I was asked about at the Woodlands at the
21
township, 21,000. Yeah. So basically, that was a $15,000 cost of work estimate with the
soft cost added to it.
Yeah.
But the point being
We
that
don't know what you're talking about.
oh, you don't? Sorry. So at least one local paper has reported that if you go through the 50 pages of estimated costs for this, the estimates that are given are basically the 15,000 we were just discussing, plus the 45% soft cost for engineering and all the other things, right, that get added to practically everything. But the idea being that if you looked at the 117 times that 15,000 plus soft cost was on there, and they're completely disconnected projects, so it's not like you're doing something 117 times, and so one estimate covers all of them. But rather that the $15,000 plus soft cost was just thrown out there as it's roughly this much, just put that number on the paper. So there's concern, at least that I've heard in the community, that a lot of these estimates aren't really estimates, they're just spitball numbers that somebody threw on a piece of paper to say, here's how we get to 807 million. on a bond, right? So that's the concern I'm asking.
Yeah.
It's a whole slew of stuff. I mean, I don't have the exact examples in front of me, but then you
I can
take
speak
that
to
same
it.
number and you shift the decimal left or right, you got 29 more occurrences here and 19 more occurrences there. And the concern then is that there's over 400 things on there that were just literally spitballed. Here's a number and let's just stick it on the piece of paper. So that's what I'm looking for. I'm looking for.
Elementary, $21,562.50.
Yeah, that one.
Installing additional fencing for Bush Elementary, $21,562.
Fencing and bathrooms, exact same
Protection
estimate.
for Caney Creek High School Auditorium, $21,562.
Right.
It goes on and on and on.
I'll answer it if you'd like me to answer it.
I just want to know that these numbers were legitimately estimated and not just spitballed by a group of people and said, here's a good number, let's stick it 117 times on the document.
Yeah, so we have a group of experts that look at it and they make their estimates.
Right.
To your point, a lot of the items are repeated. So we have 19 of the same elementary. So if we're gonna do one
Sure.
work at one elementary, it's gonna show up 19 times if we're gonna do it at every school. So some of that does occur.
Right.
There are multiple items on there that when they estimated the cost, they estimated at 15,000. Once again, that's an estimate.
Sure.
There was no target number to get to. So there was no one sitting around trying to get to 807 million. I can
Right,
assure
so
you
the
that.
concern I'm getting from residents, taxpayers like myself, is that if we're just sort of randomly estimating the number and it wasn't, I mean, no project's gonna cost exactly $15,000, right? So, and there's no way we can know exact amounts because we're not at the point where, you're not at the point where you can even bid it yet to find out what the best bid's gonna be, what the price
Right.
is. But the concern then being, you mentioned, you're always looking for ways to come in under what you've budgeted on each item. And that leaves us a whole bunch of free money to use elsewhere for other stuff, and people are concerned that, well, instead of asking for 807 million, maybe you could do more specific estimates, exacting estimates, and come back and only ask for 750 instead of 807.
Sure.
That's just one of the things
Yeah.
I'm hearing, right?
And
So
part
I'm
of
just
the-
trying to
Part of the
establish-
challenge with that too is, that idea of doing more exact estimating
Yeah.
is, this is a scope of work that's gonna span over 5 years. So
And that
to
was
get an
gonna be one of
estimate
my
today for
questions.
what a fence would cost at an elementary school 4 years from now
Right.
is virtually impossible to
So
do.
that was one of the other concerns. There's been speculation that this was supposed to cover a 10-year window, but you're
No.
saying it's a 5-year window.
No, it was never
Yours
expected
is
to be a
easier
10-year
swallow.
window.
Thank you.
Yeah.
All right. That's it for me.
Did you ask a question about the estimates?
Yeah, I think it was.
I thought you might have went on to the other question. Okay, you got a question by the council?
You can ask him.
Thank you, Doctor. Anybody in the audience like to ask a
Rezoning?
question? Raise your hand, you'll be recognized.
Just me.
Go back there.
John Nickel. Just one simple question. Even if this bond passes, is Conroe ISD going to rezone schools?
Anytime we build a new school, we rezone schools. So if you open a new school, you rezone the schools associated with that area. So, I mean, anytime you build a new school, you do rezone.
So you're not gonna take them from other places to go to McCullough? Or something like that, if they're deficient, another one's already full? That's
Not as, it wouldn't be included as part of this package, no. I mean, that's always a board decision, so I can't make a promise to that because that is a board decision, that's not my decision. But what I can tell you is anytime we build new schools, we absolutely have to rezone to send kids to that school, so it does affect attendance zones.
Will there be any more rezoning in the high schools, or is that kind of settled down?
It's pretty settled at this point, the way it is. Now, part of that question would be, if the bond didn't pass, could there be a resulting rezoning in high schools? That there's a potential that could happen of existing neighborhoods. But once again, that'd be a board decision they'd have to make as they, decided how to move forward.
I heard something a year or so ago about, that, students could choose what school they wanted to go to across the freeway. Is that correct?
Oak Ridge High School has open enrollment. So they are, two changes that came with the rezoning process for Grand Oaks High School is Oak Ridge High School had an academy that was added at Oak Ridge High School. So that is a school of choice for South County students, an advanced math and science academy. And then Oak Ridge High School also has open enrollment so that students can come over to Oak Ridge High School if they choose.
Does that include athletics and extracurricular activities also, or just academy and?
Open enrollment students can come for whatever reason that they would want to come for.
So they're
Um,
fully enrolled.
Now, if they
What are the requirements for that, though?
they just need to sign up and they
No,
would be
no,
able.
no specific.
No, there's not a vetting process or a,
It's not like the technical school at Conroe where you have to go into a lottery.
No,
right?
it's, they can just choose to come. Now, being Texas and being, aware of athletics, you can't move for athletic purposes, according to the UIL. So if a student, couldn't say, well, I want to go to Oak Ridge because I'm going to be the starting quarterback. They could choose to go to Oak Ridge, and if they become the starting quarterback, that's acceptable, but they can't move for athletic purposes, and stay eligible to participate in athletics. So
If they move, they're not eligible.
they're not for the first year,
First
so
year.
yes, ma'am. They're eligible to play, just not to play on the varsity level.
Questions, anybody? Seeing no further questions, Dr. Null, thank you so much
Thank you,
for being
appreciate the
here today.
opportunity.
Thanks, everybody.
Appreciate it.